as a volunteer firefighter in a small town in South Carolina for about 15 years before I retired. During that time, I saw my fair share of horrible and disturbing accidents. But there was one call that I took that still haunts me to this day. It was late one Friday night in the middle of June. It was around 3 in the morning when I got a radio call about a house fire and needed to get there ASAP. And just an FYI, when you're a firefighter, if you get a call, it does not matter the time or the place, you need to go. Anyway, by the time my department and truck got out to the house, it was 3:15 in the morning. The house was at the very edge of our town, surrounded by vast woods. It was an older house, and as we pulled up, fire was rising from the back, slowly eating at the house, and we had to move quickly. My team and I burst through the front door. The whole place wasn't furnished just yet, but there was black smoke everywhere. We were told there were people inside, so our first objective was to find them and get them to safety. Just as we stepped through the front door and into the living room, I saw an old lady sitting on the couch. You would have thought she was having the time of her life, the way she was just sitting there and smiling, despite the roaring fire inside of her house. Confused by her strange behavior in such a dangerous situation, I ran up to her, told her that we were the fire department and to grab onto me, and I'll get her out of here, and that we need to hurry. But what she did next I will never forget. As I'm trying to pick her up, she looks up at me with this huge grin and said, "They're all dead, and you'll be next." Not knowing what the hell this old lady meant, I scooped her off the couch and brought her outside to safety. By this time, the house was nearly engulfed by the flames, and I realized how close this lady had come to becoming toast. But when I looked at the lady to see if she was okay, she was staring at the burning house with such delight, you would have thought that she was staring at the pearly gates. The rest of my team came out of the burning house and gave me shocking and chilling news. There were 3 others in the house. They tried to save them, but by the time they discovered them, it was too late. That's when the old lady started jumping up for joy. She was clapping her hands and literally giggling like a schoolgirl. She said that her grandkids and her daughter were in there, and that she was the one who started the fire. Then she looked at me again, laughing, her eyes wide, and said that I'll be next. And after we put the fire out and sifted through all the debris, we came to the disturbing truth. This lady was a grandmother living in her daughter's house due to her senile condition. The grandmother seemed to have snapped. She lit a candle in her grandkids' room while they were all sleeping and placed it under the curtains. Her daughter and 2 grandkids had all perished in the fire. The grandmother was held in custody by police, but died a week later due to heart failure. I don't care what anyone says, I'm glad that bitch is dead. And as for her cryptic, "You'll be next" BS, I'm alive and fine and telling you this story. But I'd be lying to you if I did not have night terrors from time to time of that old lady in the dark corners of my room, laughing in the middle of the night. Be safe, everyone. Have you ever gone through something so traumatic that the only way to deal with it was simply by talking about it? Well, this is me dealing with my horrific trauma and telling you this story. Last year, I was working as a firefighter up near the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. I was single and living by myself, which meant I had plenty of time to just work and make money. I was working an overnight shift, because why not? When we got a call about smoke coming from the woods. My team and I got into our truck and headed towards the location. When we got to the woods, we could see smoke rising maybe about 20 feet into the woods. My team and I quickly unraveled our hoses and got the fire under control in less than 10 minutes. It honestly wasn't anything major, which was a good thing. Now here's where my night took a hellish turn. When the flames were completely put out, we started to search for the cause of the fire. I was looking for a match, a cigarette, or anything really to figure out how it started, when I heard Parker, my teammate, yell for us to get over here immediately. We found Parker in a small clearing surrounded by woods. I was about to ask him what he had found when I saw it. the most traumatic thing that I've ever seen in my life. Lying in the smoky clearing were at least 20 bodies. Some were burnt so badly we could not identify them, but there were others who had no burns or marks on them at all and seemed perfectly fine, other than the fact that they were completely dead. When we got forensics involved in the situation, we found out the disturbing truth. The 20-some bodies belonged to a group who called themselves the True. The official report says group, but believe me, it was more of a cult. Forensics had learned that each member had taken enough cyanide that they had all died within 30 minutes. Now, you might be wondering how the fire started. After the members took the cyanide, they made a fire in the woods and started to dance and celebrate that death was not truly the end. When the last member fell dead to the ground, the fire eventually grew and spilled out into the leaves on the ground and started to spread. That was when me and my team got called in to put it out. And here's the worst part. The bodies that were not burned in the fire, they all had these bizarre grins on their faces. It almost looked as if they were happy to die. I've since researched cults and self-sacrificing, and believe me, it's a rabbit hole you do not want to go down. I just hope I never reach a point in my life where joining a group that encourages self-deletion in the middle of the woods is a good idea. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out and listening to my story. I will remain anonymous, and I hope you understand why. Stay safe. Back in 2018, I was responding to a house call about a lady having a heart attack. And just FYI, even though I was a firefighter, I had received my medical training and was also classified as an EMT. Anyway, I took the call about the lady with the heart attack. When we got to the scene, the lady seemed to be unresponsive, and her family were in tears. We quickly put her onto the gurney and got her into the ambulance. Her name was Beth, and she was 82 years old. This was her first ever serious medical condition. As we were racing to the hospital, I was in the back with my partner, and we were trying to initiate resuscitation to get her heart to start again. I'll be honest, for a bit, it did not seem like Beth was going to make it. We were still about 10 minutes from the hospital when, all of a sudden, Beth opened her eyes. This was a good sign. My partner and I were telling her everything was going to be okay and that she was in good hands when she sat up straight in the gurney. This shocked me because of the speed and strength it took for her to do this. I was telling her to lay back down so that we can continue to monitor her vitals when she said the words that still haunt me to this day. She said, "You'll be burning with the rest of them. There is no hope for where you are going. I've seen the hellish fire that cannot be quenched." Mind you, she was saying this to me while looking directly into my eyes, unblinking and with a blank expression on her face. She also said, "And do not go to New Jersey." Then, as if she had lost all strength, she collapsed back onto the gurney. Not knowing what the heck that whole scene was, my partner and I continued to make sure that she was okay until we finally arrived at the hospital where the doctor would take over. Now here's where things get bizarre. A week later, I found out suddenly that I was supposed to have a meeting in New Jersey for some additional training that I needed. The morning of when I was supposed to be in this meeting, I suddenly became violently ill with the flu. I'm talking about throwing up bile, extreme muscle aches, and the chills. I was simply too ill to attend and could not make it. Later on that night, while I was resting on my couch, I saw on the news that on the Atlantic City Expressway, there was a massive accident that claimed the lives of 8 people. I was suddenly reminded of Beth's seemingly insignificant words of, "Do not go to New Jersey." The next couple of days, after I was feeling better, I decided to go over to the hospital to see how Beth was doing and talk to her about how she knew for me not to go to New Jersey. But, unfortunately, when I arrived at the hospital, I was informed that Beth had passed away from heart failure. Now, call me crazy, But if Beth was correct about somehow knowing that I should not go to New Jersey, was she correct about the other things that she said to me? About me burning in a hellish fire that cannot be quenched? I'll be honest, I've woken up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat from night terrors of my body being burned alive in some hellish lake with no end. If Beth was right about me not going to New Jersey, could she be right about this? I've since been reading my Bible more and more and have got back to going to church. I truly do not know what to make of my situation, and that's why I'm writing this to you, to see if you or anyone else has any insight on premonitions or prophecies. So please, if you do, any insights or knowledge is welcome. Anything to stop these night terrors from happening. Thank you.